And it's a dobry večer for you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to GT Ukraine, the YouTube channel, all things Ukrainian sim racing on GT7. As it happens, I launched the stream some 6 minutes ago, and I've been having a wonderful time talking about the different contestants, but I have been told that the stream didn't go live, so we missed a lot of time talking to nobody. Practice is about to come to an end, and we're about to go straight into qualifying tonight. This is race 3 of season 1 in 2025 in the Asselit Design Endurance Championship. We are at Blue Moon Bay, specifically infield A reverse, for those of you who love your GT7 tracks, and our drivers will be racing Group 4 machinery. The slowest of the 4 cars on offer. There goes the command. Practice ends soon, and we'll be going straight into qualifying. I won't have the time to give you a quick rundown of the order in the championship. I will just have to enumerate it. Starting from the end, it's GTO 250, who is in the Alpha tonight. Mark GT ahead of him, who is racing... there we go, the Porsche Cayman Group 4. Ahead of him is H-Boss, who last time I checked there he is, just chilling in the box in the pits. He's running the McLaren. Ahead of him is Luco, also on the Alfa Romeo. Then it's Vlive, who races the Alfa Romeo 2, Vox Bacchus, Flapjack, Lenz, FunniestCowboy, Teuwo, Gadget, Cartman, and JiiRabbit. We'll have a look at all the different cars and the drivers racing them a little bit later. And right now it's qualifying time. Everyone pours out of the pits onto the track, and I expect it's going to be Gadget, of course, our host, who will lead the pack on their merry way to set fast laps. Gadget from Team Motion Blur Orange is racing the Alfa Romeo, and I believe I'm having connection issues because a lot of the liveries on the cars don't seem to be loading up properly for me. For the sake of keeping the broadcast intact, I'm not going to leave the lobby in an attempt to get the liveries right. I'm going to do that once qualifying is over. So apologies to the viewers and the drivers. We will need to make do with this the way it is right now. So this is Blue Moon Bay, infield A, a tricky little track that feels like a bit of a Daytona lookalike, but then Gran Turismo does have Daytona, so what do I know? And we're going to join Gadget, as has become tradition now, on his first flying lap to see what this track quite looks like and what it's like to attack it in Group 4 machinery. So we're out of the last corner, and now it's a long drive up to the start-finish line. There it is, as Gadget starts his first flying lap. This does not feel particularly quick. The Group 4 is the slowest of the 4 options our drivers have. The first corner is easily flat out. Watch that banking. But now the next corner is going to be tricky. Interesting work on the brakes there from Gadget as he prioritizes a tight line close to the wall on the inside. Now it's a tricky double right-hander, 1 and 2. Gadget sticks to the inside, hugging those apexes. Now the same idea, but to the left, a 1 and 2. This corner feels a little bit more flowing, but I would also classify it as a double apex. All right, it's a short burst now in this middle sector towards a tricky little section of corners. Now first is a left, and Gadget takes a lot of that curb. Now a double right-hander. The first apex he chooses to ignore. The second one he prioritizes the exit, and now it's just one more corner left to go. It's a sweeping right-hander, and Gadget again picks a tight line right up to that curb, and now opens up the steering as the car kind of lacks power. You feel it in the Alpha that it lacks the power to really produce the high speed on the straight. And Gadget sets a time. It's immediately beaten by Vox Bacchus, who's followed by Flapjack, and then Cartman takes away pole position in the Huracan. JiiRabbit qualifies second for the time being. He's in the Alpha as well, and he loses out just over 4/10 to Cartman. The results keep streaming in, and after the first rounds, it's Cartman, JiiRabbit, as Lens pops up into third place, also driving the Alpha. So one more driver, in addition to all of the motion blur boys, who has picked the Alfa Romeo. And then Luco, in his Bugatti, moves Lens down into P4, taking away P3. So that completes the first runs. It's Cartman from JiiRabbit, from Luco, the top three, then Lens, Mark GT, Vox Bacchus, FunniestCowboy, Flapjack, H-Boss, Gadget, Live, GTO, and Teuwo, who has not set a time yet, and I imagine he would be on a flyer right now. No, he's actually on an outlap. Maybe some issues for Teuwo on that first run. He's running the Ferrari Group 4 car today. Interesting choice. Quite a strong car, I think, on this combination, so we'll have to watch this space for how Teuwo does. He finished P3 last time out. It was a finish 1-2-3 with JiiRabbit, FunniestCowboy, and then Teuwo in that order. It was a strong showing for them in the Group 1 cars, but something tells me that, well, the Alpha can do well, but the Ferraris, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. The drivers complete one run and dive into the pits straight away. I would say Cartman is a little too close for comfort to the car ahead of him, and that being Vox Bacchus. And Vox is on a very tired set of softs at the moment. Look at that front left. So he's completed, this is his fourth lap coming to an end, and that soft is pretty much dead. He is heading into the pits, so we can jump over to Cartman and see what a fast lap looks like from the current pole sitter. Not much to comment on here as Cartman just powers down the main straight into the first corner. Oh, that Huracan really doesn't want to go. Cartman has to fight it. He makes the car enter the corner, but he's over 2/10 down on his own personal best. A tight line, very similar to what Gadget did, as the times are streaming in, and Teuwo is now up to P4. Well done, Teuwo. Back to Cartman. He is going through the middle sector now, and it's a tricky combination of corners. From the outside, looking like this, it doesn't feel all that difficult, but in these Group 4 cars that transfer their weight rather slowly, it's quite difficult to navigate, as Cartman is not producing an improvement at the moment, and it's very difficult to imagine that he will suddenly find 0.4 of a second in the final sector. Good wide line out of the final corner, but as he crosses the line, it's just a 1:12.3. That's deeply unimpressive. What is JiiRabbit doing? Let's look at his splits as he finishes sector 2 on this second run, and he's down 0.7. There's no improvements from the boys. Luco has only started another run, and that front left is not looking fresh. So I wonder if the conditions on the track changed, perhaps the wind direction or something, but it doesn't feel to me like the drivers are finding a lot of improvements here, as actually FunniestCowboy improves to a P6, but only a P6 after his wonderful performance in the previous race, where he was pushing for P1 at the dying end, just missing out by less than 1/10. You would expect him to perform well, but in the Group 4 cars, it's difficult. He's very close to Mark GT at the moment, and Mark chooses to let FunniestCowboy go. That's very sportsmanlike from Mark, as the second runs are coming to an end. Cartman is already in the pits to get rid of those soft tires and give it another go. Yes, Grand Tourist, I can see your comment in the chat. Indeed, it's this track again. It just happens so that we ran a race on Blue Moon Bay, fastest drivers in Ukraine. The layout was the same, though a different direction, so we were not running the reverse layout. But yes, Grand Tourist and myself, we both have unfond memories of that little Grand Prix. It didn't quite go to plan. Right, so the second runs are definitely coming to an end for everyone. Cartman is the first one out on a fresh set of softs. JiiRabbit has only just started his outlap. Luko is pitting. Teuwo is on a run, but he's more than 2/10 down. Lens is pitting. FunniestCowboy, outlap. Now Vox is on a flyer. We can watch Vox. So we sort of have this situation where some of the drivers seem to be a little out of sync with the rest of the field in this qualifying section. And Vox is just not finding that time to challenge for anything higher than P8 at the moment. Okay, Vlive is up next to complete a lap. The tires look quite fresh, and he's following Flapjack closely, so maybe even picking out a bit of a slipstream, but this is slow. It's a 1:16.2. Something must have gone wrong for Vlive there. Flapjack is right in front of him, so no change, as Gadget propels himself a little bit forward. Where is he now? He's in 11th now, almost 1.6 seconds off the leader. Now, this isn't all bad news for the Alfa Romeo boys. Oh, as Gadget takes a bit of a detour on the grass. This isn't all bad news for those driving the Alfa Romeo. It is not a car particularly known for one-lap pace, but the Alfa is good on its tires. Everyone knows this, especially in Group 4. It's so light sometimes that its tires will be several degrees Celsius cooler than the other cars, and this can give you a big advantage over a long race. As Cartman improves by a little bit and solidifies pole position, his time is a 1:11.4, pretty much flat. Good effort from Cartman, but again, qualifying in a 1-hour race is not all that important. Of course, it will help. Cartman will be out of the melee of the first corner, which is a very tricky one on this track, but as JiiRabbit improves as well, but not by much. Ooh, and I believe that's FunniestCowboy finding an improvement too. So forget what I said about the conditions becoming worse. It seems that the drivers have found a bit of extra speed. So this qualifying session, while interesting, won't give us all that much information in terms of who will finish where, because in the race it is all going to be about tire saving, perhaps even fuel saving, as Lens improves but stays P6. So we're in the 12th minute of qualifying. The third runs are now coming to an end. Cartman is the first to pit. I get the impression that Cartman is just pushing. Probably the others are being a little more economical with their tires on the outlap, but Cartman just seems to be pushing flat out, and so he's built up a bit of a gap against everyone else. JiiRabbit is the second car following him effectively on track. And let's look at the fuel situation. Cartman has a lot more fuel than JiiRabbit. I'm wondering if if the Huracan is just that good at fuel saving, or has Cartman fueled up? I don't know. Your commentator is not quite keeping up with the action tonight. So I think these are going to be the final runs. We're in the 13th minute of a 15-minute qualifying session. Cartman will have time to do one flying lap and then one more after that, if his tires are still good enough. Everyone will have at least one flyer, I think. And just to remind you, as long as a driver has started their flying lap, they will have time to complete it, even if the 15-minute timer runs out. Vox Bacchus has finally found an improvement in the NSX, but he's P8, still pretty distant, 1.2 seconds off provisional pole. Right, Cartman has started what I believe is going to be his final run. Let's watch how he does. That seemed a lot more stable than the previous time when we were following him. And what will the split say? The split says it isn't too bad. He's about a 10th down on his personal best. That can be overcome. Let's keep following Cartman. He takes a tight line into this left-hander, and now it's a dash towards the next corner. Track limits on Blue Moon Bay are rather peculiar in Gran Turismo 7. You can take a lot of those curbs, like in this corner and what is effectively turn 2, as Cartman finds almost 2/10 of an improvement over his provisional pole time. Now one more corner for him to navigate as the car really gets out of shape. That's a very wide line for Cartman. He stays out of the barrier, so it's all good. Has that given him that little bit of an edge to improve his time? No, he loses it in the final corner and fails to improve. What about JiiRabbit? He's at the Sector 2 split. We aren't going to see it. He passed the split already, so we'll just have to wait until he completes his lap. Also a very wide line into the final corner, and the timer is approaching 15 seconds. I do believe JiiRabbit will be able to start another lap. Yes, he does, but this was a poor result. He finds no improvement this time, as Gadget improves a little bit and brings himself up into P9, and that is curtains for Gadget. He won't have time to start another lap, as FunniestCowboy in his Ferrari finds an improvement and promotes himself to P3. Who else is completing laps? GTO has found an improvement, and Teuwo has found an improvement. He's in P4. What about Lens? Oh, he's pushing. He's on the ad barriers over there. No improvement for him. What about Vox? No improvement for Vox either. Here comes Cartman at the end of another lap, but this is not enough for him to improve. JiiRabbit is doing okay, but he's 3/10 down on his own personal best, so it's looking unlikely that he'll be able to overcome that in the final corner. Let's wait for him to complete his lap, as he takes a very wide line in the final corner. He sees the checkered flag, and it is no improvement for JiiRabbit. And is it an improvement for Vlive? No, it is not. So that gives us our starting order for the race. It's Cartman on pole position. First time this season, I believe. So congratulations. Well done, Cartman. He bags the extra 4 points for pole position in race 3. So the starting order is going to be Cartman with JiiRabbit on row 1. Then it's a Finnish second row with FunniestCowboy and Teuwo in P3 and P4. Then Luco and Lens, the two Ls, in P5 and P6, followed by Vox Bacchus and Mark GT on row 4. Behind them is Gadget and Vlive, that's our row 5, Flapjack and H-Boss for row 6, and finally GTO 250 rounds out the 13 drivers we will have lining up on the grid tonight. I'm going to take a quick break to also leave the lobby and launch it again to have all the wonderful liveries up, which are loaded here but don't show up. Please bear with me, stay with me, as in a few minutes' time we'll be starting the race. Hello, Vlad. Yes, it's Mr. Prototype at the microphone tonight. Welcome. You've joined us at right about the right time, as we seem to be having a bit of a technical issue. I didn't have deliveries loaded up for me as I was in spectator mode, and it seems that there might have been a little mix-up when it comes to the lobby settings as well. Let's wait a few minutes while the guys sort themselves out. Meanwhile, the result in qualifying is Cartman is on pole position in his Huracan, followed by the defending champion and current leader in the standings, JiiRabbit, who's racing the Alfa Romeo 4C. Following them are the two Finns for Team Finlanders, FunniestCowboy and Teuwo. Then it's Luko in the Veyron, Lens in another 4C, Vox Bacchus in the NSX, Mark GT in his Cayman, then two Alfa Romeos for Gadget and Vlive, Flapjack and P11 in the Huracan, H-Boss in the McLaren, and finally GTO in the Alfa 4C. Strategy-wise, I don't know much about the strategy for tonight's race, except that it's going to be really tough on tires, especially the front left. A lot of the corners on this track are right-handers sweeping. That's turn one, the final corner, also the penultimate corner, and we have the official confirmation. We have to reset the room to change tire settings. All right, let's just wait and see how this plays out. If you were thinking about grabbing a snack, now is the perfect time, as we're addressing a few technical issues before the start of the race. Please bear with us as we address this. The race will be starting very soon. Oh, what a start we've had here. FunniestCowboy is in P2. JiiRabbit is ahead of him. Luko is now third. Cartman fifth. Teuwo has pulled past him into P4, or am I losing my... Yeah, that's fine. Cartman is P5 and he's in fifth. Teuwo is ahead of him, and Lenz is on the medium tire. Yes, he's on the good tire. Was I muted there, Kimaru? I'm not sure. I might have done something wrong with my microphone. So Lenz, out of the leading group, is the only person on mediums. He can afford it. He's on the alpha, that is famously... Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cough into the microphone? I'm so sorry. I thought I was muted there. Wow. It's just one of those nights, guys. It wasn't quite working out for the lobby, and it isn't quite working out for the commentator. So Lenz is on the mediums. He can afford it on the alpha, and he's obviously quicker than the guys ahead of him. I believe Lenz and Cartman are in voice chat together, so he can let Cartman know that he has more pace. Yeah, I must have thought I was muted, Kimaru, but I wasn't, and you've heard my terrible, terrible cough. I'm so sorry for that. Right, so Lenz is pushing on his mediums. Let's see what's happening behind him. Vox is on the hards in P7, then comes Mark GT, then it's H-Boss, and then the Motion Blur Orange boys of Live and Gadget are having a little fight of their own. Let's go on board with Gadget. Are they working together? Are they bump drafting? No, actually. Gadget pulls out to the inside. Does he complete the move? It looks like it. Well, he's on the inside. He's on the favorable line. And yeah, he gets it done relatively easily. Live is still there, hoping to pick up some of the scraps. And he does get a better exit, but oh, this is awkward. Between teammates, not great. And Live thinks better of it. Let's Gadget go. And there's now a car on his outside, and it's Flapjack in the Lamborghini looking for a way past. GTO rounds out the top 13. Oh, and he's got damage. That is unfortunate. It's damage on the front left. He's on the hards. So this is shaping up to be another long race for GTO, as Gadget seems to have lost it. He's on the grass. Let's go and take a look at what quite happened there for Gadget. So here he is. It's all fine. Going through this left-hander, and oh, the car just... Was that oversteer? And he gets damage as well on the front right. That's just how easy it is to make a mistake in these Group 4 cars. And Gadget is now down into P13. He's last after that little incident, joining GTO in the group of broken, damaged cars. Oh, this is a familiar sight, isn't it? JiiRabbit leading from P1. We've seen this somewhere, and it's quite a gap that he's built against this group. Wow, look at this. This is a gaggle of cars from Luko all the way to Vox Bacchus here in P7. This is effectively just one big group of everyone driving bumper to bumper. Lenz is as I say that, he's not struggling anymore. He seems to have found a way past Teuwo. Lenz's mediums are still giving him that performance advantage, and he finally finds a way past Teuwo, who was P4 just a couple of laps ago, so he must have had a bit of a shocker. Has he made any obvious mistakes? Well, yeah, the pace is not great. Lap 4 was 1:14.2, now it's a 1:14.8. It seems that that front left on the Ferrari is starting to lose it, as Lenz is now pressuring Cartman. They're teammates, so no point making it too difficult for each other, I would think. But Cartman still has decent pace on those hards, so it's not like he has to let Lenz go. I think Lenz will need to find a way past. And right ahead of Cartman is FunniestCowboy in the Ferrari as well. So is it a Ferrari issue as Cartman seems to get a better exit? Can he get alongside? Not quite. He chooses to tuck back in. Now he's going to be hit with a bit of that dirty air, but he knows you can cut that curb. Look how much overspeed he gets from that. And again, he's aggressive on the curb, following FunniestCowboy very closely. And we've seen this on the first lap, if he can find a good line, but the car gets a little unruly there on the braking. Has Cartman got enough overspeed now to power past FunniestCowboy? Let's watch this fight. This is for P3. Cartman was on pole, but lost it at the start, and he pulls out. Lenz is following him. A bit of cheeky driving from Lenz as he wants to get this overtake done as well. I think he gave a bit of a bump draft to Cartman. FunniestCowboy is looking for the inside, and he can't complete the undercut. And will Lenz now be able to get by Cowboy? He's on the outside. He wanted to go inside, but Cowboy knew what he was doing. And no, they stayed put. But Cartman pulls through, and he's now in P3, looking at Luco as behind them. What's happening behind? Lenz seems to have lost out in that little sequence of corners, and now he's under pressure from Teuwo again. You know, for all the talk of a very strategic race, so far we're seeing a lot of wheel-to-wheel action as Teuwo gets it a little wrong in the final corner. He's going to be vulnerable to Vox here, who's having I would call it a quieter race, but he's keeping up with the group, so nothing's lost for him. He's within visual range as Teuwo is really close to Lenz here. Will he go for the move? Nah, that would be asking a little too much. He stays put for now, but it's an interesting one. So in Teuwo's position, the drivers need to think of tire saving at this point in the race, definitely. We're 9 minutes in, and as you can see, the hards are not doing particularly well. How are the mediums doing? Oh my god. So the mediums on Lenz's car are better than the hards on Teuwo's. Now that tells you something about what sort of car the Alfa Romeo is. Super good on tire saving. So Lenz is able to drive. Well, to be fair, he is struggling to find a way past FunniestCowboy, who is on the hards. But potentially, if this sort of tire wear rate continues, Lenz will just be able to stay out longer and overcut FunniestCowboy. So this is a good race for Lenz so far. He is 7 seconds behind the leader, who is in the Alpha as well. And look at how the Alpha is treating its hards. This is not good news for everyone else following JiiRabbit. Ooh, the Bugatti is not good on those tires. The Huracan is kind of okay. Fastest lap from Cartman, by the way, last time out. So he is pushing, and he is finding a bit of pace. This is not over, as we are now 10 minutes into our 16-minute race. This seems to be one of the closest fights on the track at the moment. We also have a fight over here between H-Boss and Mark GT for P8, and then behind them, Live and Flapjack are relatively close. Let's check out what GTO is doing. GTO is still circulating with damage, while Gadget pit... just last lap, by the way, and he decided to fit the mediums. Interesting choice from Gadget. We will have to see whether it works out for him or not. This is a short lap, so Gadget is already 52.5 seconds behind the leader, and with 20-ish seconds more, he will be lapped. So he needs to be mindful of that, but the leader will have to make a pit at some point as well. So hopefully Gadget can keep himself out of trouble. So, at the 12-minute mark, at the end of the 10th lap, it's JiiRabbit from Cartman. Oh no, did I miss an overtake by Cartman? Please be on the replay. Let's have a look at the replay. Cartman pulls better out of the hairpin, and he's able to take the inside line. Yep, inside. Well, I mean, Luco seems to have let him go even before the corner arrived. So Cartman has found his way back up into P2. The original pole sitter seems to be finding the pace, and he's now chasing down JiiRabbit. Cartman's tires are a little worse than JiiRabbit's, but I wouldn't say this is critical. This is race-breaking tire wear for Cartman, so this might not be over for him yet. Now, someone who it is over for is Vox with the condition of his tires. Ooh, and the two Finlanders boys decided to have a bit of a fight, and now Cowboy has damage here. Let's try and find... Did he have contact with the wall? Nah, he's got damage at this point already, so we don't quite know what happened to him. Oh, interesting, it was he who made the move on Teuwo, his damage notwithstanding. So something peculiar happening there between Cowboy and Teuwo. Let's see if Cowboy chooses to pit. He still has about 50% of tire life left in his front left. But I would imagine pitting would be the right thing to do. JiiRabbit did a lap that was 3/10 slower than Cartman last time around, so Cartman is pushing. He is finding pace, but will he be able to counteract his obviously faster tire degradation? Luco, I mean, at this point you have to give it to him. He's doing a great job just keeping this Bugatti on the track. Lenz has finally found a way past Teuwo. His mediums are... Actually, his rear left is doing worse, as behind him there's again all manner of chaos, as Teuwo is has found a way, that's what happened, found a way past Vox Bacchus. And look at this, some of the MR cars seem to be eating up the rear left even more than they are eating up the front. That's not something I expected, but then again, the weight is shifted to the rear, so this was, in a way, predictable. Let's stay with Vox and actually go on board with him. Will he try to challenge Teuwo, perhaps at the end of the straight? From the way he shifted into sixth there, I don't get the impression that he's thinking about a move. Perhaps this is more of a save the tires, save some fuel kind of situation for Vox. And he's doing a decent job eyeing up Teuwo. Ooh, as he dives up the inside of Teuwo. That's a big lunge into the double right-hander, and he overshoots it, so Teuwo finds a way past, and so much so that Vox is in no position to challenge into the next corner. Oh, the comment is Lenz pushed Cowboy into the wall. That's why the car is broken. I'm sorry I missed that on the live broadcast, and I couldn't find it on the replay. That's an unfortunate thing, and I'm surprised Lenz has decided to press on. Perhaps a bit of a sportsman-like forfeiting of the position would have been more appropriate. Maybe the stewards will have to get involved at the end of the race. Right, so Teuwo, Vox, and FunniestCowboy are still in formation in P5, 6, and 7. They are quite close, but not challenging each other, and I have to say, at this point in the race, it seems that everyone has found a bit of space for themselves. Okay, well, there's a fight between Vlive and Mark GT for P9. But other than that, it seems that the field has spread out a little bit. Oh, great exit there by Mark. We can go on board with him. This is a difficult place to overtake. You need to be very well alongside to challenge someone on their inside. And look at Mark's tires. That front left is not giving him the performance he wants through these long sweeping right-handers. This must be so difficult for Mark at the moment, as he is navigating it more or less. This is okay. We're nearing the 20-minute mark, so if you're on a two-stop, it would be okay to pit in around 2 minutes' time. Let's see what everyone will be doing. JiiRabbit's tires are still very much okay. I think he could do another 14 laps in addition to the ones he's already completed. Cartman, it's not too bad, but I get the feeling that Cartman is aiming for a two-stop. He needs to take this then to about 20 minutes, maybe end of next lap, lap 16, and then his pit stop window will be open. Luco, I mean, I don't know what this man is doing at this point. Those tires are dead, man. Let them go. Pit. Is he pitting? Yes, I think he is pitting. Yep, this is a pit. Okay, I called it. So it's a pit for Luco from the hards. Well, considering that they struggled so much on the Bugatti, I think he's going to be taking the hards again, and he won't be using any other compound tonight, as he's joined in the pits by Vox and by Mark GT, whose front left is effectively dead. Let's see how long it takes, and let's see where Gadget, who pit a long time ago from from hards to mediums on his Alfa Romeo, where he will end up against these boys. Well, Mark GT is still... he's leaving the pits at the moment, and Gadget, I'm afraid, is nowhere to be seen. So, it is not good news for Gadget. He is genuinely in P13 and quite a way behind even the person in P12, who happens to be Mark GT in the Cayman. Right, so it's hards for Mark GT, it's hards for Vox Bacchus, it's still hards for GTO, and of course it's hards for Luco. And look who's in the pits. Lenz sheds the mediums at around the same time that others are shedding the hards. That just goes to show how good of a tire saver the Alfa Romeo is. Now, I don't expect anything crazy to happen here. Everyone will probably stay in the same order that they were. Will there be any weird mingling? No, Luco clears Lenz, so it's exactly as they were, ahead of the pits. And here comes the mingling as GTO draws near Lenz, and Lenz actually, I wanted to say he's kind of letting him go, but none of that is happening. Lenz is on the inside, defending from GTO. He doesn't want the extra traffic, and he stays in P7, which will ultimately shake out to be B4, I believe. That's what Lenz had before the pit. What's the situation between JiiRabbit and Cartman? It's static. The gap is about 4.4 seconds between the two of them. And Cartman's tires are noticeably worse than JiiRabbit's, so Cartman should be thinking about pit stops. FunniestCowboy is currently in P3, but he hasn't pit yet. There goes Live into the pits of his mediums. Flapjack inherits P4 from him, but he's running with a bit of front left damage on the Huracan. And here is the order now for those who have bit. It's Teuwo in P9, followed by Vox Bacchus, then H-Boss, then Vlive, Mark GT, and Gadget, I think, might have given in to despair. He's in P13, his hazard lights are on, he's going nothing fast in terms of pace, so that must be P13 for Gadget tonight. All right, Cartman pits together with FunniestCowboy. So Cartman is effectively performing an undercut on JiiRabbit. Rabbit's tires are deteriorating now. It is looking not particularly well, so Cartman might be hoping for an undercut. There comes what is this camera? There comes Flapjack in P3. He hasn't pitted yet, and he's between Cartman and Luco, both of whom have. And on Luco's car, I mean, that Bugatti is just not good on the tires. Look at that. He's only done, 4 laps? This would be his 5th. And that front left is already showing serious signs of wear. Lenz in the Alfa Romeo is holding up admirably in P5, which is about to turn into P4 once Flapjack pits. And I would imagine now is a good time. He keeps it out of the barrier, good for him. Although his car is already damaged at the front left, so actually Flapjack can afford a bit of contact with the wall. Did I just jinx him? Because I believe he did make contact with the wall. Let's have a look at the replay. We're on board with him. Yeah, the car gets a little out of shape as he drives into the final corner. And yep, you can hear the clonk. So that was contact with the wall for Flapjack confirmed. The leader is still circulating, a 1:14.3 for him last time out. Cartman, well, it's a little too early for us to tell. He hasn't completed a clean flying lap just yet. The previous one was a 1:13.7, but that's unrepresentative because you get fed out of the pits a little down the line as JiiRabbit chooses to carry on. Okay, chat, let me know. How likely do you think that JiiRabbit is on a one-stop strategy and he's taking these hards to minute 30 into the race? I'm actually thinking that might not be impossible, which is insane, considering how many pit stops everyone else is doing, but it's an Alfa Romeo, so JiiRabbit might have that option available, while Cartman, I've only just noticed, is on the mediums. Now that is a serious point of divergence between the top two. These mediums, I mean, the hards did, 17 laps on Cartman's car, so I wouldn't expect them to do more than 12. Even that is optimistic. So what is Cartman doing? Is he convinced that he doesn't need 3 stints on hards? He probably believes he can do with 1 stint on mediums. Yeah, Kimaru, not a bad suggestion at all. He is in clean air, is JiiRabbit. No one's impeding him. Those tires on the left-hand side, I mean, they're worn, but he can probably manage them. Yeah, this looks like a slam dunk one-stop strategy for JiiRabbit today. Yeah, with a potential for a pit stop for softs at the end. He could even take on the mediums now and not commit himself to a one-stop, but instead do a very quick 2-stop where he does hard, medium, soft, to guarantee that fastest lap at the end, which currently belongs to Cartman. So he's doing a good job challenging JiiRabbit at a distance for now, but I'm sure JiiRabbit is very, very aware of the gap between them. But he will also be aware of what compound Cartman is on, and that this is a little bit artificial. Now, here we have a fight on our hands. It's Lens on mediums against Luco on hards. Now, we've seen how the hards deteriorate on the Bugatti, so this is more a question of when rather than a question of if, and we'll come back to this fight a little later because we have even more spicy fighting down the order. Fox is in P7, being closely followed by GTO, who is still on the same hards. GTO is in the alpha, admittedly, so he might be doing the same thing the leader is doing, but in P8. Now, behind them, now this is one hell of a fight. FunniestCowboy is sizing up a move against H-Boss, and he's not just sizing it up, he's making it happen. H-Boss is hanging on to it on the outside. You have to give it to him. That's good defense, and he's got the better exit, but Cowboy will now have the benefit of the slipstream. No, MacLeon, it will not rain. It cannot rain on Blue Moon Bay. That's a bit of a troll question for you, from you, that I don't appreciate, as FunniestCowboy looks for the inside, but H-Boss's car is there, quite unfortunately, but now he gets it done on the inside through the double right-hander, and Vlive wants a piece of this action as well. Let's go on board with Vlive. It's 3 cars within, what, less than half a second? But no, Vlive cannot muster a good exit out of the hairpin, so he stays in P9, but he'll be licking his lips looking at this fight. He's on the mediums as well. H-Boss ahead of him is on the hards, so this should come to Vlive ultimately at some point in the race. Oh, as here it comes. Oh, your commentator switched off for a moment, and here it comes for Vlive. He is side by side with H-Boss, although without the benefit of the slipstream, he will fall back behind H-Boss. Vlive hesitates and takes a moment to actually pull into the slipstream. There's obviously some tire saving going on here, as Lens has found a way past Luco. We can confirm we have 2 GT Ukraine boys on the provisional podium at the moment, as JiiRabbit pits at the end of the 30th minute of the race. So with this sort of tire wear, he could do a one-stop. Now, question is, does he want to do a one-stop? We will find out very soon. Cartman will successfully perform an undercut. He will be ahead of JiiRabbit, but he needs to stop once more. We're not sure whether JiiRabbit does, and he's on the hards. So it seems that JiiRabbit is committing to a one-stop strategy. Now, we know that the pit loss without refueling is something around 28 seconds. So that's the difference that Cartman needs to create between himself and JiiRabbit in order to win the race. Now, it does feel like a tall order. Let me know. Do we have anyone for Team Cartman tonight in the chat? Do you think that Cartman can pull this off, or will JiiRabbit bag the win again on his superior strategy? Now, one person who can play a role in this little story here is Lens. He's on mediums, JiiRabbit is on hards, so Lens should be faster, at least for a few more laps, until his mediums wear out. If he pulls JiiRabbit into a fight, he can do a big favor to his teammate Cartman by slowing JiiRabbit down. He doesn't need to pass him, just needs to, have a few side-by-side moments here and there, put him off the ideal racing line in a couple of corners, and Cartman at the front knows what he needs to do. He needs to be putting in those laps. Right, let's check in on the other boys here. Luco in the Bugatti is just killing those hards, man. It's minute We are 32 minutes into the race, so just over the halfway mark, and his second set of hards is nearing the end of its useful life. Teuwo's in 5th, Voxbacchus still having a fight with Cowboy. H-Boss and Vlive are enjoying a little ding-dong fight of their own as H-Boss passes Vlive, but then Vlive is on the inside. He is given space, he has all the space he needs, but I have a feeling that H-Boss had the better exit, and that is confirmed. Vlive stays in P9. Ahead of them, the fight is very serious. FunniestCowboy is pressuring H-Boss. Oh, sorry, pressuring Vox, whose tires are noticeably worse. So, again, a lot of these fights can feel like they're full of tension, but actually, because of the tire dynamics, a lot of it is kind of predetermined, and it's more of a matter of when rather than a matter of if, as Vlive finds a way past H-Boss, but H-Boss is going to stage a comeback right here into the first corner. He is side by side, and now as Vlive looks for the inside line. He is 8th at the moment, and yes, Vlive pulls off a wonderful switcheroo, but H-Boss comes back for a second bite of the cherry. Vlive knows he needs to defend the inside, as let's go into this little camera. Okay, this gives us a great view of both cars. So H-Boss is looking for the inside on the run out of the corner, but for now, Vlive is able to keep P8. How is FunniestCowboy doing? No! Was that contact, or was that just a mistake from Vox? Let's bring up the replay. I did have the wits about me to drop a marker for myself. Was that contact? Was that contact? Are we going to see it? I think there might have been, actually. That does look like there might have been contact. Let's give it another look from a better perspective. So here he is on the inside, and yeah, that's so unfortunate. I mean, it's one of those things, right? Cowboy will say, look, I was on the inside, he turned right into me, and Vox will say, he was nowhere alongside, I had every right to take that apex. I don't envy the stewards if this gets taken to them. This is going to be one hell of an incident to discuss. Right, let's check in on our leaders. So Cartman is now almost 11 seconds ahead of JiiRabbit, and Lens is pulling up on JiiRabbit, but it isn't quick enough. He needs to be in the slipstream, and right now it doesn't feel like he's getting a lot of that helpful tow. Luco is effectively in no man's land at this point. He's 5 seconds behind Lens, almost 9 seconds ahead of Teuwo. The only thing Luco needs to concern himself with is the condition of that front left tire, which is abysmal. This is the 29th lap. We still have just under 25 minutes to go. And at this rate, Luco will need to make not just one more, but 2 more pit stops. And that's bad news. Unless he chooses to brave it out on this set until around 40 minutes into the race, from where it becomes perfectly reasonable to just take another set of hards. He has a bit of a gap to Teuwo in 5th, whose tires are looking great. So he can afford to lose a bit of time against Teuwo. So Cowboy has stayed ahead of Vox. Thankfully, Vox did not incur any damage in that little incident he had with Cowboy, so it's all good, as Vlive takes an excursion off the racing line and off the track. Will H-Boss now use this as an opportunity to attack? Let's go on board. No, it doesn't seem like he's quite close enough, but then this is a very tricky corner, and Vlive's tires are probably still dirty, but it's all good. They stay exactly as they were, P8 and P9. Let's go and have a look at how Mark is doing as Luco pits, so he didn't take it all the way to 40 minutes, and it's another set of hards for him. I wonder if he's going to need the hards for the final stint of his. He can probably afford something softer than that. Mark is fighting with him, but this is a bit of an unnecessary fight, and yeah, ultimately Luko takes the position. Right, let's go even further. So in 11th we have Flapjack, for whom this has not been a fantastic race, and then finally GTO is again driving with damage, so unfortunate for him, but this looks set to be P12 for him unless someone ahead makes a mistake. And our host for tonight, Gadget, I actually thought he was stationary in the pits, but no, he's showing some great spirit, is Gadget. He is pushing on, even though he's now a lap down and 30 seconds behind GTO in P12. So the gap between the leaders seems to have stabilized at around 11 seconds. Cartman is not pulling away from JiiRabbit anymore, while JiiRabbit seems to have increased his gap from Lens. So Lens's tires are not great any longer. Again, if he's on identical stints on the mediums, he just needs to take these tires maybe a lap more into the race, and then he can pit and go to the end. He's got almost a 15-second gap to Teuwo behind, so presuming that they all still need to make a pit, this is looking like a clear-cut P3 for Lens, which will be his strongest result so far. He's had 2 P5 finishes in the first 2 races of the season, so a very good foundation, and now potentially a podium for Lens as well. That definitely will not hurt. In P5 we have FunniestCowboy followed by Voxbackers. They had that little coming together a couple of laps ago, but for now it seems that Cowboy has the pace over Vox. Then comes Vlive, who has found a convincing way past H-Boss and built up a bit of a gap. Again, Vlive is on the mediums and H-Boss is on the hards, so that Alfa Romeo is giving extra tire wear, tire-saving performance for Vlive. Luko is now in 9th. His car is probably the worst when it comes to tire performance tonight, and he might need to do an extra stop compared to everyone else. So this is something for us to watch. Flapjack is in 10th. GTO is currently in 11th, and Mark is 12th because he has just pit for a new set of hards that he should be able to take to the end of the race. There we have it. That's a pit for Lens. His tires were not quite dead yet, but he chooses to pit. There's no point for him to carry on. So I assume this is going to be another set of mediums until the end. And let me just take note of whether he needs to fuel up or not. Yep, and a bit of fuel goes into the tank for Lens. Let's see how much it's going to be. It's 42% for him, as Voxbackers and H-Boss both pit at the same time as well. Lens actually finds himself behind Luko, which isn't particularly good news for Lens. I do believe that Luko will need to pit again, so he'll be quite slow on the hards, but Lens is going to need to find a way past him as Cartman pits from P1. Yeah, these mediums were not looking particularly good. Let's see what Cartman puts on the car. There are still 19, 18 and a half, maybe 18 minutes to go by the time he exits onto the track, and I'm wondering whether he needs another set of hards or he can afford to do another stint on mediums, and it is going to be a stint on mediums, so that is the finale that we are setting up for ourselves in this race. It's going to be Cartman on mediums chasing down JiiRabbit on hards. Cartman choosing, or rather having, to do one stop more than JiiRabbit because his car is not as good with tire saving. Okay, FunniestCowboy, Live, these are all people who have not pit yet. Luco is someone who has pit yet, and I assume will need to pit once again. So for Lens, it's a matter of finding a way past Luco, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't feel that Lens is challenging for anything higher than P3, so finding a way past Luco is literally his only remaining task until the end of the race. Behind him is Teuwo. He's now 11.5 seconds behind, so no worries for Lens. Flapjack hasn't pit yet. Voxbacchus has. He's in 10th. GTO is in 9th. GTO is in 10th, but he has not pit yet, so he will be losing this position. HBoss and Mark GT are enjoying a close fight, and HBoss has damage again to the front left. I'm afraid we haven't seen how that damage was incurred, whether this was something of his own doing or whether he was helped a bit. Right, Cartman is managing traffic in the form of Gadget, and the gap is 17 seconds now and reducing. So Cartman took out a second last lap. Will he be able to keep this up? Will he be able to reduce the gap by a second per each minute of running? Because we've got 16.5 minutes to go. I find that doubtful. It's wishful, but if JiiRabbit makes a mistake, if something goes wrong for him, Cartman might still capitalize. And, I mean, let's keep the big picture in mind. JiiRabbit is the reigning champion, the defending champion, also leader in the table. Cartman had a bit of a poor race last time out, so P2 won't be considered a bad result by any means. Lens has found his way past Luco now, and he is, in my head at least, on course now for a P3 in this race. Luco is 4th, and well, I mean, for him, there is still a lot that can change in this race. So P4 for now, but he does need to pit. Now, 28 something seconds will put him, oh boy, something in this vicinity, I think, somewhere around P8, maybe P9. But he does have the option of putting himself on a faster compound against everyone else's dying tires. He might still be able to salvage something, although I, again, find it difficult to believe that he will be able to get himself back into the P4 that he's occupying right now. Look at what happened. Gadget, who was demoted to P13 so early on in the race, has actually passed GTO. I imagine this was because GTO pit for repairs, but still, it goes to show racing spirit and sportsmanship should never be abandoned. Good job, Gadget. He's now in P12, so not last after a terrible, terrible start to the race. Right, well, I feel like we have nothing better to do but to try and monitor the fight between JiiRabbit and Cartman. It's one that's being fought at a distance of 15 seconds, so not quite the most captivating little on-track battle, but still very important. I mean, JiiRabbit is now navigating traffic. Yep, blue flags are being waved for HBoss and for Mark GT in front. These little things, how much time he wastes finding a way past lapped cars, this all matters. I mean, it can come down to just a couple of seconds between him and Cartman at the end of the race, so every 10th counts, and Cartman will be hoping that that traffic can slow JiiRabbit down, as you can just see the gap reducing through the double right-hander and now through the hairpin. Cartman is getting closer, and this is not over for him at all. One more thing that he's doing is building a gap against Lens. And Cartman has put himself close enough to JiiRabbit that Rabbit won't be able to pit for softs at the end and go for the fastest lap. This is all, you know, these are all mind games that matter. Cartman is denying JiiRabbit the extra 4 points for fastest lap, and this might be of importance at the end of the season, although for now, with Rabbit's gap at the front, it doesn't seem relevant. But hey, who knows? What do I know? I'm just a silly commentator. JiiRabbit has found his way past H-Boss, who's in 11th, but he still hasn't lapped Mark GT. This is wonderful news for Cartman on the one hand. Also, this means at some point Cartman might encounter these cars as well and have to deal with them himself. For now, what Cartman will know is that he's catching, and he's catching quite quickly, by the way. He is still catching at that rate of 1 second per every minute driven, so he will have his hopes up. He will be pushing to try and deny JiiRabbit the win. This is a wonderful camera shot, and I'm just choosing to linger on it for a little while. Do we have any close fights? I mean, there's Flapjack and Vox, but Flapjack is just out of sync. He will need to pit again, and Vox will find a way past him. Vlive is on mediums, but he's relatively far behind. Mark GT, of course, and H-Boss continue to have their fight for P10, although H-Boss has damage, so he will find it a little more difficult to force himself onto Mark. How is Luco doing on the hards? This isn't looking too bad for Luco, I have to give it to him. He might have been managing this final stint. He still has 10 minutes to go, and that front left isn't looking fabulous, but probably, again, considering that he has a 9-second gap to Teuwo, he might just be able to make it to the end. Let's watch this space, because this would be a good result. Another good, well, this would be Luco's best result of the season so far. 24 points, 32 points for him, so not particularly strong, but a P4, that will be a good result, both for him and for Ddraig Goch Alpha, the team he races for. Oh yeah, by the way, team-wise, of course, GT Ukraine are having a great day today with both cars on course for podium. JiiRabbit is always in the mood for Team Motion Blur Yellow. But it's ironic that his teammate, GTO, is at the very tail of the field. So the entire field, so to speak, is in a Team Motion Blur Yellow sandwich. GTO is pulling up on Gadget, so it isn't over yet for these two. GTO's tires are better than those on Gadget's car, though I would say it's looking okay for Gadget. Unless he makes a mistake or something dramatic, it should be all good for him to get this to the end. We will check in with him a little later. Right, JiiRabbit versus Cartman. The gap is 10.5 seconds as Luco pits. Completely disregarding the good advice of the commentator, Luko pits from P4. He also needed to pit for fuel, so forget what I was saying. I was inattentive. So he will need to fuel up and not just switch tires, and that should put him around... I mean, he's in the pits right now, being serviced, being fueled up. I think Vlive will pass him as well. Oh no, he won't. Actually, Luko gets teleported to the end of the pits, which here is a long distance, and that way he gets P8, and he's 6 seconds now behind Flapjack, who has just let Vox Bacchus past. So P6 is quite possible for Luko in this race, and that will be good. He will keep up his... he will improve on his previous results in the first 2 races. How's it looking for JiiRabbit? You know what? That front left, it isn't looking too good. I wonder if JiiRabbit has been pushing a little bit more this stint. I mean, obviously Cartman's tires are not great either, but this is beginning to look spicy. There is intrigue here at the end of our 60-minute race. Just a little less than 7 minutes left to go, and although the likelihood of a JiiRabbit win is still higher than that of a Cartman win, I wouldn't rule it out completely. Like, if I were a betting man, I would not necessarily bet my house on JiiRabbit winning. One thing I would bet my house on is Lens getting P3. He's 23 seconds behind Cartman in second, 15 seconds ahead of Teuwo in fourth. So it's looking good. Teuwo and FunniestCowboy, the Finlanders, is doing a very good job in P4 and P5, but not quite at the same level as they were in Group 1 cars 2 weeks ago. Vox Bacchus is still in 6th. Flapjack has decided to kill those tires and leave nothing but the rim. Luko is now right behind Flapjack, and this is going to be an easy move for him. He just needs to pick the right moment, and there he is. In the end, there's no picking exactly. He just powers by Flapjack, who is no opponent at this point in the race. Right, 4 seconds for Luko until he chases down his teammate, by the way, Vox Bacchus. So let's see whether team orders interfere or whether Luko will need to fight for it. Let's check in on Gadget and his fight with GTO. It's looking good. It's looking good for Gadget. GTO is not really catching, so Gadget seems on course to score that P12, which I understand in the grand scheme of things doesn't sound like much, but again, Gadget was 50-something seconds behind the leader early on in the race, so salvaging even a few points is going to feel like a bit of encouragement to Gadget. Well done, mate. It's unfortunate for Gadget, I just remembered, that he's not doing particularly well, because he loves the Alfa Romeo 4C. His 2 wins in his championship-winning season came in the Alfa Romeo, and overall, this car represents a very significant portion of Gadget's total tally of 10 wins to his name in ADEC. Right, 7.7 is the gap between JiiRabbit and Cartman. Cartman has already found his way past H-Boss, someone who did slow JiiRabbit down a few laps ago, so Cartman is having a bit of an easier time with the traffic, but we've only got less than 4 minutes to go. This feels like it's going to be one of those valiant efforts that don't end up producing the result. But let's keep watching. Cartman is doing a very good job. We have a wave from Lens in the chat. Mate, how are you doing this? Watch the road. I know you're in no man's land, but bro, bring this in. Come on. We're all rooting for you. As we are for Cartman, of course, over here in Ukraine. Cartman is our shining star. But so far this season, he's facing stiff competition from JiiRabbit. JiiRabbit is not making mistakes. He's on the right cars, on the right strategies. He seems like he's got this. And he's about to lap Vlive from the sister team, Motion Blur Orange, that will be. I want to check in with Luco. There he is. He's close to Vox Bacchus, just 2.5 seconds between them. Could he still get FunniestCowboy? Feels like a bit of a stretch, considering that he will only have, I think, 2 laps is what's left with the amount of time that we have on the timer. So probably P6 is the best Luco can hope for, which is still an admirable result, considering just how bad the Bugatti is on its tires and how how tire intensive this race has turned out to be. Right, JiiRabbit sets off on another lap. So it will be this lap and one more for him. So for the leaders, the race is going to be 49 laps long. Cartman is now 6.4 seconds behind. His tires are in just about the same condition as JiiRabbit's. So at this point, I wouldn't expect him to really be closing in. And I guess this is settled, unless one of them makes a dramatic mistake in these final two laps. This seems to be the finishing order. Lenz is in P3, Teuwo is in P4, FunniestCowboy P5, and then Vox and Luco are P6 and 7. We've got very strong and uniform team performances today. So it's Cartman for GT Ukraine and Lenz on the same team. Then it's the 2 Finlanders boys, Teuwo and FunniestCowboy, followed by the 2 Ddraig boys in Vox Bacchus and Luco. And then there's a bit of a mix because Vlive is on Motion Blur Orange, Mark GT is on a team of his own, Gadget Racing, I believe, and H-Boss is racing for Ddraig Omega. It's the final lap for our leader, JiiRabbit. It's the final lap for our second place, Cartman. Lenz will not be starting that final lap with the rest. He will be the first one to actually cross the line and complete the race for himself. So that's B3 confirmed. Teuwo is next up to finish in P4. Good race for him, I would say. I mean, the Ferrari is a little hard on that front left, so well managed for Teuwo, P4, as he drifts across the line. Style points for him. FunniestCowboy finishes in P5. Same. All right, boys, we understand. Vox Bacchus and Luco cross the line within 0.3 of a second. That's a great result for the Ddraig boys. Vlive is here in P8, being chased down by JiiRabbit, and now finally JiiRabbit, the leader, crosses the line as something happened. Something definitely happened to JiiRabbit because Cartman ended up 1.5 seconds behind. Will we see a replay, or was it just... Nah, we're not getting it at this point. Perhaps it's fuel or something, but JiiRabbit was not going particularly fast here at the end. But still, he bags the win anyway. And Okay, I'm not stuck in replay mode. Clean race for JiiRabbit, and he takes the win tonight. No pole position this time, and no fastest lap, but still a commanding performance from him nonetheless. So JiiRabbit takes first. Cartman is second with the fastest lap in the race, so bagging those additional 4 points as well, and perhaps more importantly, denying them from his main opponent. Lens brings in P3. It's GT Ukraine on the podium with both cars. Then they're followed by the two Finlanders boys of Teuwo and FunniestCowboy. Vox Bacchus and Luko are P6 and P7. Vlive takes P8. Mark GT is in 9th. H-Boss is 10th. Flapjack, GTO. Oh, and ultimately Gadget somehow lost the position to GTO. So after all of that, Gadget finishes P13 at the end of the field. Right, these results might be subject to change as we had a few unfortunate incidents that will probably be referred to the stewards post-race. I will let you know when we meet again 2 weeks later. Thank you for sticking with us. It's been a bit of a technically challenging stream this time around, but all good in the end. I've been your commentator Prototype. Make sure you drop a like for this to this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Always consider donating. This helps us out a lot. Take care until we meet again. And of course, Slava Ukraini. Bye-bye.